Hi there guys, Tony here from Caveman Props. Well, it's almost Christmas again, so it's time for me to do my Christmas build. What other way to do a Christmas prop build than to do a prop from Star Wars? Yes, you've guessed it, we're doing it again. I did it last year. As you may remember, my December video was a Boba Fett helmet, just in time for Christmas, because we had the Star Wars Episode 7 being released over Christmas. This year we've got the Rogue One, a Star Wars story, being released at the same time of year again. So I'm going to be doing another Star Wars prop, but I'll be doing classic this time. I'm going back to the Empire, not the Empire Strikes Back, sorry, the Return of the Jedi. And this one is the Thermal Detonator that you see in Jabba's Palace. And to keep it as a Christmas build, I'm going to be using a Christmas bauble. This is nice and round. It gives me the starters for this. I picked this up in the pound shop. Had some sweets in it, which I've already eaten. It's obviously made from another kind of famous film. You might be able to guess from the pictures, but I'm trying not to show it to you too much, because obviously because of copyright. We'll be using this as my base, and then we'll be working around this and making it look like the thermal detonator. So I'm going to head off into workshop and show you how I can turn this into a prop. Okay, my first job was to create my template. And the way I've created my template here, it's very simple. I took one half of the dome, covered it in some cling film so it's nice and tight around it, and then proceeded to cover that in masking tape. You can use something like gaffer tape if you want, and then using a pencil and a ruler or straight edge that I could bend around it, I was able to divide it up into sections I needed and kind of mark out the pattern. I was looking at pictures of the thermal detonator closely and sort of like trying to work out how I would do it onto this. So I've come up with this template. There's some quite small fiddly bits, so we never got that. And the first thing to do is to cut out a set of these on some EVA foam, and I'm going to be using a 5mm EVA foam. Just so I actually got quite a thin one, so I might use the even thinner one just because I don't want to bulk this out too much. So we're going to cut some templates out and see if they start going on and see how it works. Okay, the first part is we're going to start with the front on the top section, so I've cut that bit out. What I've done is I've punched a hole in it. I've got a piece of metal tubing which I've just sharpened the edges, pushed that on and punched a perfect hole out, and then through that I've pushed, this is part of a blister pack from a set of pills, obviously one that's been used. I kind of cut that out, pushed that through, and I've painted it red from the inside, so that's kind of going to be like the light on the front. And then we're going to stick that to tube in there, or sorry, not the tube, in the dome there. So we're going to stick that on and see how we go from there and work out from that. So get this bit on first, and that's going to be our starting point. Okay, for the next section, it's obviously quite the thin bit. I've cut them out, and I've cut them in two, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out fanwards from the middle. So I'm going to put both of them in, and what I've done is I've made them a bit longer, so we're going to cut them to length to hopefully fit in. And I'm going to, because obviously I want to make it be even, so we're going to work our way out and do each piece round as we go. It's a bit fiddly, and I'm cutting each piece out as I go, simply so I don't lose pieces. I could have sat there and tried to cut everything out and just have a big pile of them, but I kind of want to be a bit more precise, so I'm going to cut everything as I go and get it in. So put these two bits either side, and hopefully that will starting to look like it's taking shape, and carry on from there. Right, so there, so that's that bit stuck in, so hopefully you can see it taking shape. So we're going to cut the next two pieces to either side here, and we're going to start working our way round. and I'll show you a few stages in between. Okay, I've gone just over halfway, so that's the whole front section done, and hopefully you can see that it's starting to look more like the thermal detonator. So I'm going to crack on. It's getting very cold, so I'm finding it very hard with my fingers at the moment. So I'm going to finish off this section. I'm going to do the underside dome as well in the same way, but it's going to be reversed to this. So it's going to look like they all interlink together. So I'm going to get that done, and then show you once the two domes are done, and move on to the next part. It's taken a little while, but I finally got there. I finished both domes. As you can see, as they go together, that looks quite good from there. Doing quite well. It goes a little bit off at the back, and I had to add some extra bits in, but thankfully it was kind of even all the way around. It does go a little bit funny towards the back, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. This bit's going to be covered up by the switch anyway, so once that's on there, it's going to look quite good, and this is going to be the bottom bit. So that's there. So the next step I'm going to do is the switch on here, and then these are going to get coated, ready for priming and painting. Okay, the next job we're going to do is we're going to work on the switch that's going to go across the top. So I've cut this bit out of 10mm foam. I just marked off 2 circles with a bit of tubing I had, and then straight lines in between them just to create this shape. And I've cut it out in my scroll saw for the simple fact it's just easier to cut this curved bit in the scroll saw. I still didn't do it that well, but it's a lot easier than trying to do it with a scalpel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to define the edges of this off with the rotary with a little bit of sander, just to kind of get more of the shape, and then we're going to heat it up and try and get it into the right shape and glue it to the top of our thermal detonator. So that's going to sit on there like that. I'm probably going to take this texture bit off the bottom just to make it easier. And I've done the edges of that just a little bit with the rotary tool, just to add a little bit more definition. Sanded off the bottom. Obviously the edges are now gone a little bit frayed, so I'm going to work on that with a little bit of hand sandpaper just to clean that off, and then it's going to get the heat gun, so that should hopefully seal everything in and just make that a little bit more smoother. So we're going to crack on with that, and as I heat it as well, it'll become a bit more malleable. I should hopefully be able to get the bend in it that I want. It will then make it easier for gluing on. So crack on with that, and show it to you once it's on. Right, I've heated this. It's made it nicely and smooth and sealed off all those edges. It's done quite good. I gave it a bit of a bend. When you heat the EVA foam and give it a bend, you want to hold it a bit further than it actually needs to be, because even when it cools and you let it go, it will spring back just a little bit. So I kind of held it almost like a C shape, and it sprung back. It was a little bit over, but then that's easier to pull back and get into the shape it needs. And then obviously I've glued it on, so that's starting to look shape. I'm in two minds at the moment whether this looks like the top of a thermal detonator or R2D2 of Mohawk. But there we go. So now we're ready with these two parts. We're going to add a coat of PVA over each one, and then unfortunately we then have to leave it a good day to dry and give it a second coat and probably a third coat. So we're going to crack on with that. The temperatures at the moment, it is going to take a long while for the PVA to dry. During the summer I've been doing projects where I give something a coat of the PVA glue, go away for 3 hours, come back, because I was doing something else, and I come back to it, it's already dried, and I can give it like 2 coats in a day. The temperature we have at the moment, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to PVA it, possibly in the 2 parts that it is, and get it ready then for painting. So we just brush on a thin coat of the PVA, just to get it covered. This kind of like helps seal in the EVA foam a little bit better and helps with the finish. I have been asked before why you sometimes use PVA rather than latex. I do use latex. It works exactly the same, and you can get the same finish. I would use latex more on like cosplay items and items that need to be a bit more durable, because the latex is a bit more durable, has a bit more movement to it. With a static prop like this, I would use the PVA. You can use latex. You'll get exactly the same finish and it will work just as well. I just use PVA because it's cheaper. I mean, I can buy 500 mils of PVA for £1. I can buy 500 mils of latex for about £10. So it is just a difference in price, and for a static prop like this, it's not going to be moved about, it's not being worn. The PVA is going to work just as well. So that's what we do. So we just give it a coat, thin coat all the way around, brush it around, make sure all the EVA is covered. Gets it nice and coating, and then we let that dry. We come back and we do another one, and we keep going until we feel that it's sealed in enough, and then it can be painted. So we'll crack on, get all that done. The switch will get done as well, and so next time we come back to it, it should be ready for painting, but obviously that's going to take a few days. Right, okay, after I'd PVA'd them, I added about 6 layers of PVA. The simple fact for the 6 layers is, what I forgot to do was I forgot to just run over this with the heat gun, just to seal in the pores of this PVA. This bit was absolutely fine, because we'd heated it, so the outside pores were kind of all closed up when we formed the shape of it. But these bit hadn't, they'd just been stuck on, so I should have just gone over that, and it probably would have only taken about 3 coats of PVA. But I had to do 6 of these and leave it to dry. I then put a little bit of masking tape over our little red light that's going to be at the front here, and put them up on some little plinths and sprayed them with a plastic primer. And once the plastic primer was dry, I then sprayed them with the metallic silver. So we're kind of getting there with our shape, and you can obviously see it's looking a lot better. I'd also glued the bits on the front here, and then realised that I needed to actually spray it silver before I did that. So taking them off, and we'll put them back on again in a minute, but you can obviously see that's starting to look right. But the original prop isn't quite this clean, so we're going to add a little bit of weathering to this now. The easiest way to do that, I've got a little bit of black acrylic paint, an old cloth which I use for pretty much all my weathering. I'll show you a tiny little bit of black on there, and then you just want to put some black on and give it a rub with the cleaner bit. It kind of just dirties it up a little bit, adds that little bit of texture to it. And we're going to be a bit rough. Some bits are going to be silver, some bits aren't. Go around the edges. You can see, and it sort of starts to kind of make it look that little bit more like the original. So, but I'm not going to weather this middle bit. This middle bit's going to stay lovely and shiny silver. And that's basically we go. We just add a bit more on. So you kind of do it lightly to begin with, and then just go back over it again, depending on how much you kind of want to add on there. So that's that. Probably a little bit too much there. So we're just gonna little bits. So I'm gonna crack on. I'm gonna do all of this and show you what it's like once we've done the weathering. So we've finished with the weathering. So that's kind of made it look a little bit, and obviously I've left this bit to be a nice shiny silver. And now it's time to start adding details to this. And the first bit of detail I'm going to add is I've got these. These were little beads that I've borrowed from one of my daughter's play sets. They're quite soft beads, so what I've been able to do is with the scalpel is I've been able to cut them in half. So I've got 2 semi-spheres. Oh, sorry, 3 semi-spheres. I cut 2 of them. I ended up with 4, but I only need 3 of them. And I'm going to glue these to the front bit here to create the little lights on the front. So we're going to get that sorted. Okay, so start from the centre, tiniest little bit of glue on there, pick up the first one, get that down into position like that, and that should dry pretty much instantly. Okay, and then we can move on to the others. There we go. So we've got our 3 little lights on the front there. Now we should be able to take the masking tape off of this bit to reveal our red light. We'll probably require a little bit of clean up, some silver's just gone underneath it. That's not too bad, so that just needs cleaning up a little bit. So we can do that. And the next bit of detail I want to add is I've got this tiny little thin bit of foam. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but on the back it's got this lovely little textured piece of plastic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that on here just to be like a grip piece for the switch. So that's going to get put on. Go. Try and remove any excess glue. So there we go, so that's kind of the bit we're going for, and hopefully now that's all on, charging ahead, that is the final piece. So put these together. It's a little bit tighter now because obviously I've added an extra layer of paint inside a bit. So there we go. That is now our finished thermal detonator, and that's all. All I've got to do is a little bit of clean up around the light bit here, and we're all good. So that's our thermal detonator, all done and dusted. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to check out our YouTube channel, there's plenty more on there. This has been our Christmas build, a thermal detonator from a Christmas bauble. Please like, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also contact me on our Facebook page, or you can contact me via email. Any requests you want to see build, any info you want, just email me. I'm always happy to help people. So that's actually a little bit off. I'm going to try and resort that out in a minute. But there you go. So one prop build down. Wish you all a very Merry Christmas, and I look forward to showing you more tutorials in the new year.